That's going to be the end of the film, isn't it? When you put all this together, your mum and dad kissing at the end.
Let's do it. Alrighty, here we go. My name is Marty Fox from WHITEFOX. Now, here's the deal. Alrighty, well, welcome to another episode of With the Fox. Where are we sitting?
Tower Bridge.
Tower Bridge.
Indeed.
What's in the background?
Tower Bridge and the Shard.
Yeah.
How good is that? So we are in London. There's another episode of With the Fox, and I'm with Paul Cooney. And do you like Thomas or Tom? Because I always call you Tom.
Either.
Tommy.
Who's the CEO, founder and CEO of Ralph James Real Estate. We've all known each other across social media. So it feels very funny being here in person with you guys right now. Where did it all start with our relationship?
I think you pinged me on. Well, no, sorry. Actually, this is funny because when I was talking to Thomas, he was showing me your business, as in, oh, look at this dude. I was like, yeah, I hadn't heard of you then. I'm not on Instagram really in terms of like, I don't do scrolling. I just do a bit of posting.
Got you.
So Thomas went, oh, look at this dude. I went, oh, he's cool, because I thought I knew every cool dude on the planet that was doing property.
But I'm not scrolling.
No,
of course you know no one.
But I like just through different things.
There's a closet scroller.
But then Thomas showed me your business. I was like, that looks great.
And what year was this?
This was at
Last
Christmas.
Last year.
Yeah.
Christmas, January. Yeah, just gone. And then you pinged me about a couple of days later. And then I sent him a text saying, oh, Marty's in touch. And then we arranged a call. Yeah, but that was after you talking about Marty.
But I'd followed you probably for a few years and seen the brand grow, and I liked it from its infancy, so how it's developed and how obviously it's evolved quite considerably in the last few years. But for me, it was just more about the optics and how you came across in camera, but also just the brand and what you were portraying as a company. And I just liked it. I enjoyed watching the content. So
and for the people listening, just give us a little bit of background as to your career, your brand.
So we started in 2015, and it was. I've always been in property for the last 20 years. A mix of property development and agency, but agency was my beginning.
And you were listing and selling real estate?
Listing and selling real estate from 19 years old. Fell into it, as most people do. Went travelling, came back, got offered a job, said no, did it anyway, and then you can't get out. Once you're in it, you're hooked. Well, you're either hooked or you're not, and some people don't enjoy the process, but loved it. Absolutely loved the thrill of it.
And were there moments early on where you thought, oh, I might tap out, like breaking points, or you were always in?
I was quite, I was very passionate. Not just about property, but I had a background of, my mother was in banking, so she was very much about bricks and mortar, get into investments, all this sort of stuff. And then I just loved the buzz of the deal. As you say, it was obvious, and that is something that was passionate for me. And from day one, I think I was 19. By the time I was 20, I was running my own branch. Had no clue what to do with staff, absolutely, but I could put food on the table. So I could go and win a listing, and I could motivate a sales team, and that's what I was good at. All the HR stuff probably falling down around me, but in terms of actually winning the business, I was good at it. And then by 23, I was running the busiest office in Hove and listing probably the highest value at the time. And then I did have a bit of a crossroads then and came out of agency and went into development. So I was then doing development for the next sort of 3 or 4 years, and it's not the same. Whilst I do development now and I enjoy it, I love the creativity and the design and obviously
that's more now on the side.
Yeah, very much so, or alongside really. But at the time, I did miss the buzz. I missed the people and that engagement and that high you get when you do a deal. I missed all of that. Listing a property.
And agents say this all the time. It's that deal mechanics. It's the process of putting it together that you actually get addicted to.
Yeah.
Once it's done, it's sort of like, I want another one.
But you are hugely addicted to it. It is a drug, and you do want to keep going to the next one and the next one. And a lot of agents say the same, but their problem quite often, as you say on a lot of your podcasts, is they don't follow through. No. So actually that makes the difference between your good agents and your just standard ones. All right, you can go and win the business, but if you don't see it through, you're not going to get your repeat business. So follow through is the most important thing in our business. And I think you've said it quite well. When you're scaling, if you don't have follow through, then you won't be able to scale the business because people won't come back to you. So, and also, what is the point of difference of what we do? Realistically, okay, we may have an excellent marketing team, we may be very good at listing, but if we're not doing the business as people want us to, they won't come back. And actually, what is that point of difference? The point of difference is probably 75% are not following through and not seeing the job through to fruition. And that, I think, is the most important thing in our role.
People think that if you've got the great marketing team and the brand and stuff that you're going to have a great career. It's actually doing the basics well. It's real estate 101. And I was always taught fortune is in the follow-up. If you say that you're going to do something, you just need to do it and you will be successful. And then you add the layers of all these other elements. And that's then when you see the growth or the springboard of someone's career.
But the evolution in agency, I mean, I'm sure you can tell us in Australia as well, but I mean, when I started, agency there was no computers. There was no Rightmove, which I don't know what your equivalent is in Australia.
Realestate.com or domain.
So there was none of that. It was a Polaroid on an A4 sheet and it was photocopied. No,
And for those that are actually watching this, even though you look like you're in your early 30s, how old are you?
I'm 43.
43.
Real age, come on. What's your real age?
Yeah, I'm 21. So no, 43. But so 99 was very much Polaroid. It was all about cost cutting, so it was photocopies, it was black and white.
Were you with a big brand or a boutique brand?
Yeah, no, I was with a corporate company, and they were basically part of the Sequence Group, which are now owned by Connells, who are the largest in the UK. They weren't at the time. They weren't boutique, but they were across the south coast.
And at what moment did you want to then say, okay, I want to start my own boutique? How long into your career was that?
Went through, so we went through development. We had the recession in sort of 2008, 2009, and I ended up holding a lot of development stock at that time, huge amounts. My business partner at the time couldn't or didn't need to sell. He was a lot older than me and had cash flow that he could keep going, whereas I had a young family, so I had to sell my shares in that business at the time. I wish I didn't, because 2 years later it had escalated back to the high echelons. But then got back into agency, and then certainly didn't start again, but I knew that there was a different way of doing it. I'd seen the good corporates, I'd seen the bad corporates, and I'd seen the really good independents, but there was a different way of doing it, and that is where Ralph James came from, really. So it was blending all of my knowledge, but also having a much better marketing spin on it. When I started in 2015, and obviously this was all a thought in 2014, no one was doing marketing. Not certainly to the degree that we've now evolved to, but back then it was, videography was non-existent. Professional photos was one of your guys going with a snazzy camera, no idea how to use it or edit.
Not even that, it was a...
Well, yeah. I mean, we didn't have iPhones back then. I'm again showing my age, but it was very much a case of people were selling professional photography, but it wasn't professional. No. It was just their way of trying to sell it to the client.
And in 2015, and also the name Ralph James, where does that come from?
So that's quite interesting. So Ralph is my son, and Luca, middle name James, is also my son. It sounds quite romantic. It wasn't, I'm not going to lie, it just looked good on paper. We went through everything. We had Thomas this, you tried using my brother's names, we used everything. But on paper, when you wrote it down, it just...
Ralph James looked great, yeah.
Yeah, and it just looked strong. It was actually my wife that came up with the Jack, because Ralph was always there, because it is a strong branding name. But
Ralph Lauren,
yeah,
Ralph James.
Ralph's name came from that, and it was just a weird situation, which is an entire other story. But Ralph James just came from my wife making a comment, have we thought about this? And when we put it down on paper and branded and the designer looked at it, it just worked.
And then in 2015, you were listing and selling, or the vision was to build that team? You said that you're great at motivating salespeople and getting them going. Were you leading from the front to build the business? Or?
Massively, yeah. So when we opened the doors, it was a single office in So the concept was completely different. Not only was it about the branding and about the culture that we were creating, which is also equally important in today's world, because I think you are only as good as your people. And I think a lot of companies forget that. So from my point of view, it was creating a brand that, one, wouldn't date, but two, was very, very different. We didn't want a standard brand. It had to be something that stood out from the crowd. And the offices and the office design had to facilitate that as well. And that's why we've gone with our sort of vintage, industrial, very different. If you walk into any of our offices, no one would ever guess that we're an agency.
Very similar to WHITEFOX as well, where it does very inviting and not agenty, not stale or feeling like you've walked into a commercial space.
But you've gone next level, so you have more hub-based. And I mean, we are a blend, and this is a conversation that Paul and I have continually. We're a blend of traditional and more modern in terms of the way that we look and feel. So we nearly, when I set the first office up, I mean, we found this purely by chance. I mean, as so many things happen in life, but we were nearly taking a penthouse suite in Red Hill, which was a huge office space, and we would have had your cool breakout space, your pool table, real nice culture area and a breakout space for the team. And it was going to be completely different, much similar to what you're doing now, and so many others are in London as well. And you mentioned Daniel Daggers before. So that kind of feel, if I'm being honest, I wasn't quite ready. Because I still had that traditional element of having a shop front and needing people to be visual and having that opportunity for people to come in so easily. That's changed now. So I wouldn't change it going back then, certainly for what we've achieved, but would I change it now? Well, there's a question mark over that. So the business is always evolving.
And then how did you guys connect? Because your position in the business is now
managing director.
So, and you've now obviously stepped back and running the company.
So I take a much more overall view now, rather than dealing with the day to day and the team. That's very much Paul, and he's much better at it than me. In terms of dealing with them and nurturing them and growing them, that's his specialty.
Well, it does feel like I'm head coach, and he's still the chairman.
Yeah. So where did you come from? How did you connect?
Well, we've got some amazing dots that are joined up. I mean, how far do you want me to go back? Because there's some ones from back in the day. So, for example, my dance teacher, I went to dance and drama school for a few years.
What sort of?
We did everything. It was just, it was a dance.
So you can move, you can wiggle.
Yeah, I'm fantastic.
Oh, wow.
I'm fantastic.
I love that.
But
he's not lacking in confidence.
No. Well, it was a school that sorted me out. I was a right mess before I went there, but that school really just brought everything out of me. So thank you, the Drive Prep School. So Thomas's first love was my dance
You're
teacher.
dancing?
Yeah, my dance teacher.
Definitely not his dancing.
So we discovered that again, just having lunch the other day. And he was going out with my first dance teacher. Then my first job in agency was in a place called Kent Town in Brighton, which is a really nice little village in Brighton. That's where he lived. So my first office where I did my apprenticeship, Thomas was down the road. And I do remember them talking about some lad in the sports car and handsome. It was definitely him.
And a great haircut.
Oh, it was him. I remember there was a developer with a load of money and he was doing loads of business. It was him. And I never met him because I was a junior. I was a T-boy.
You were busy doing pirouettes.
I was doing the T. I was a T-boy. So I was making tea non-stop. That's how I got in. I went in. My story is very... I think it's the perfect story in terms of how I've just grown in the business. I went as a T-boy, then finally was allowed to do one viewing. Then it was like, you can do 2 this week. Oh, great, thank you. Then you can do 3, and it just worked up. And I did all my exams.
Do you remember your first deal? And was it lettings and sales?
I was doing both. I was doing both. It was a family business, and I was helping on both sides. Yeah, I think I was just. I mean, also I was very lucky. The mentors I had in there were very good, and Thomas knows a few of them. And one in particular was a chap called Paul Bonnet, who's Thomas knows. He is like Yoda. He's the Yoda of in terms of integrity and ethics. And I remember coming back from a viewing once. It wasn't Thomas, it was another developer, but a guy in a Ferrari took me out. and he said, oh, if you get this less, if you get the property less, I'll chuck you 500 quid. So I've run back to the office going, I can get 500 quid from this geezer if I can knock down the price. And I remember going to and Paul Bonnet just went, right, come downstairs. And it was the best telling off I ever had. Because at that point, I just thought, oh yeah, what's wrong with that? I'm going to knock off 5 off my client's property. I'm getting 500 quid for doing it. That's great. This is where I was at 17, like just very young and naive. And I remember that telling off that day. And from that moment, it was, we all have those moments when you're young. And and I've been offered life-changing sums of money, life-changing. Like developers in London offering me £100,000 to sell an old lady's house cheaper than I should have sold it for. I've never done it. And I could have still done it and got away with it. And I've got so many of those stories where I would have got them maybe 200 grand less and they still think I was fantastic. And I could have made a few quid and I've never done it. Yeah. And that's why my name is spotless.
You can't risk your reputation for the sake of...
But they all do. Yeah. Sorry, don't know if you want that in, but but a lot of them do. Some do. Oh yeah, some do. Yeah. It's
well, I heard it today, particularly with Daniel, when he said that there's a lot of grey money, there's a lot of black money.
That's what he's talking about.
And that's London.
Yeah, that's what he's talking about.
There's a lot of things that occur, but then he said the climbing of the white money is growing. The clean money, the money where you're seeing these 20, 30-year-olds dropping 20, 30, 40 million pound because they've been entrepreneurial, they've started something online, they've sold it. It's genuinely clean money, and it's coming more and more through the ranks.
But that's I'm so well now. 14 and a half years I've been selling property in London. My record is spotless. There isn't one mark, and I should have a couple of marks just with the sheer amount of business I've done. I've just sold 558 homes now in West London, and that I should have a few black marks. There's no black marks. It's spotless.
But what was your story? How did you get to London? So you were in Brighton
as a teen boy. Now he's as clean as a whistle.
Oh yeah.
We can go on to the next part.
So I was living in Brighton. If you know Brighton, it's a really fun place to live. It's
beachside.
It feels like LA of England. I know Thomas would think that's a bit over the top, but it's a bit like, for me, it's like the Venice Beach of England. Oh, it's an hour away.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's on the beach and everyone's stoned and it's
some people.
No, some people. Some people are all stoned. A lot of them drink.
He's not portraying a very good picture here, is he?
Everyone's stoned.
Except me.
And I've done 500 deals.
They're stoned, they're on skateboards, they're on rollerblades, they're hula hooping. It's that type of place. Yeah?
Okay, yeah.
Anyway, so I'm from Brighton and I was living in Brighton and all my mates were all quite creative and not doing much, all just like staying on the roundabout. So I woke up, this is how it went, honestly. I woke up one night and I'd done 20K on credit cards. So just in the credit rush, this was 07, I'd spent, at 17, 18, I actually did about 30, it paid off a bit, but I had £20,000 debt on credit cards.
What were you buying?
Everything, scooters, like old Vespas,
and doing what with them?
Taking
just
girls out, pretending I was older.
Yeah, hula hooping, just blowing cash.
Yeah, blowing cash, clothes, holidays, festivals.
Weed.
So, probably. But yeah, so I remember this night because I woke up and I thought I've got to open up the statements because I just used to chuck them in the bottom drawer. Took them out. I was like, I've got 20 grand's worth of debt. This was like 2 a.m. I was like, what's the idea then? I'm going to go to London. I'm going to sell property, and I'll come back. I'll pay it off and I'll come back. So I went to London to pay off the debt, and then come back to Brighton and probably still carry on my skateboard and getting stoned. That was the idea. I thought I'm going to London just for a year.
And this is after you were the T-boy.
This is after I was the T-boy. Yeah. So
you knew that you could do a deal.
I could do property.
You then come to London.
Make some
cash.
Make some cash. And I was 20 years of age.
Where did you get a job at?
Kinley, Folkard and Hayward.
How long were you there for?
I was there for 6.5 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you never went back to Brighton?
Oh no, I've been here since.
Been here since?
Yeah, so 14.5 years. But
did you lose any? And had you made connection with Thomas or no?
Me and Thomas met in 14. So 2014, briefly, he came to a party in London. It was like a Christmas do.
And did you say, hey, you're that guy?
No, I was on the dance floor all night. I didn't actually speak.
we had mutual friends, but we barely knew each other.
No, I didn't. I remember just being on the dance floor.
If you are at a party and there is some music on and you do go on that dance floor, what tunes do you want? What's your genre? preferred
if I
genre?
showed you my last 10 played on iTunes, you think, what's he on? You know, what's the? It's so
Varied.
Oh my god, it's like
You can wiggle to anything.
anything. I'm singing most of the times in my head.
I love that.
Yeah,
He's
I'm
going to
singing.
Glastonbury next week.
I'm going to Glastonbury next week. Yeah, on my own. That's my 8th time. But I'm tunes constantly.
He's off the scale now.
So then how did the connection in
Sorry.
business come about?
I'm going to try and shorten this. So I met Thomas in 14. Thomas's business partner at the time, not business partner, let's call him partner.
Yeah.
He was actually. So business partner. His friend worked for me in London. I met business partner Ashley back in 2011. So there was again another few little dots joining up. Then me and this chap called Chris, who worked for Thomas then eventually, we had a good few years together. Then I stayed in touch with Chris because Chris joined and I was following then the Ralph James story. Then me and Thomas sat down in 2022 for a little chat. And that's
Before then, wasn't it? Wasn't it 21?
No, it was 2022. And that's when we first had a proper chat, when we first got to know each other.
So
And you were really looking for somebody to come in and help.
Yes.
So at the time, it wasn't as senior as he is now.
No.
It was a sales director role, but it was mainly based out of the flagship office, and it was him to come and run it, basically.
And the flagship office from here, how far away?
45 minutes,
45
on
minutes,
the
yeah.
train. On the drive, probably 3
And how
hours.
many offices in total?
5.
5.
So now, obviously at the time, what did we have then? 2,
It
3,
was 4.
3?
It was 4 then.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah, just with Banstead just opening.
Oh, was it?
Yes.
Oh, fine.
Yeah, it was just
Okay.
after that.
So we sat down and I had a good role and I was confident going into this meeting that I was going to land my man. And he turned me down and said the role wasn't right for him at the time. And look, I understood it. It wasn't.
And was that role to leave where he was working in this area to go into a whole new market?
It was.
Yeah, so that's
Yes,
quite,
that's why.
and that's probably where you panicked because, 6, 7, 8 years of honing your network within a particular pocket to then up and leave, and obviously, you probably live near where you work.
Oh yeah, well it was 12 and a half at that point. I'd done 12 and a half in West London.
Yeah.
And then to move to Surrey, like I'm sure it's the case in Australia, but in England, and certainly in London, you become famous in a sort of 1.5 mile radius, and that might be 30,000 chimney pots. It's plenty if you're getting enough of it. So you don't really, that's how dense we are here, as you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you're now seeing, but we're on top of each other here. So you might only cover a 1.5 mile radius, and there's 30,000 chimney pots.
So the only reason why you couldn't land your guy was just because the setup.
I mean, timing's everything as well, isn't it? I mean, you were at a bit of a crossroads at the time, but we kept in contact the whole time, and it didn't work. Then what? 2 years, 18 months later?
It was about 18 months later, yeah. So and also I have to say it was because Thomas was with Ashley. I thought they'd be feeding each other in the care home. That's how, in terms of like how close they were, and you were.
Yeah.
I thought I don't want to go near that because three's a crowd and everything. I just thought I'll leave them to it, and I really liked them. They both looked. It was like I always say Dr. Evil and like Mini Me. It was like they were perfectly matched for each other. So I thought I'll leave it to them. And then when Thomas took me out again, it was here. We met here, and he took me for dinner. And he said, "Oh, Ash has left," and it was like a EastEnders moment. You won't know that show, but it was like a soap opera moment. Where
Why did you have that moment if you still weren't prepared to get up and leave? Where did you think there was the opportunity?
I just started my new business, so I sold one, had another business which I sold. Then I had a non-compete for a bit and blah, blah, blah. But then so a month into my
non-compete, blah, blah, blah. Previous employer's like, no, blah, blah, blah.
No small print.
No, I did. I was a good boy with that.
Yeah.
And then, but Thomas, a month into my new business, said, "I want you to be MD." And then I went home. I thought,
and your new business was
a month old.
And then what was that called?
Paul Cooney.
Paul Cooney Real Estate.
Yeah. Well, just Paul Cooney.
Just Paul Cooney.
Yeah, just Paul Cooney.
Yeah.
And I was only a month in, and I sort of, I had a few quid, as you do when you're starting a new business. But then he sits with me and says, right, do you fancy being MD? And it was exciting. I think at that point I wasn't quite ready to commit probably full time. And then we came up with the idea of running the two. So without oversharing too much, all the success you see now of Paul Cooney, Tom's going to get looked after as well. So there's now we've now come to an arrangement where I can be Paul Cooney up here, and that pot will be shared, and then I'm on a good ticket, a good wicket at Ralph James.
But to help and inspire and drive and
as a coach, I feel like head coach. I'm not on the tools. Thomas would like me to be more.
Yeah. But you are on the tools still in London.
Oh, very much so.
Yeah.
Bloody hell. I mean, I like locking up a house last night at 10 o'clock for a gas safety, after football. That's how much I'm on the tools here.
Yeah.
I'm locking up a house in Shepherd's Bush
so
last
then
night.
how often, and it's quite a unique setup. It's one that I haven't seen.
No.
Globally, I haven't come across this type of setup where
No.
you own the company, which is branded Ralph James. You own your business, which is Paul Cooney, of which you're now a shareholder in. But then there will be a period of time that you allocate every week to ensure that the Ralph James team are performing and hitting their KPI markers, whatever it might be that you're using to measure success, to ensure that overall everyone's winning.
Exactly. We've called it a strategic partnership,
And
that's what it is.
And that is exactly what we do. And you've had 3 different structures now, haven't you? In terms of your diary management.
Oh, we've tried 3.
And also you have to manipulate it to a way that suits the business. So maybe one particular area needs it more at a certain time. So actually you need to spend more time in there. So another dimension of the business gets less time. So he's really tried to juggle it around, but actually he is a workhorse and does work continually. I mean, you see him on his Brompton bike and on the tube here, there and everywhere. And whilst it's fun, it's brilliant because actually he's working the whole time. Whereas Muggins here in the car, I mean, yes, I can make phone calls, but it's still not as productive as what he's doing now. So it's worked really well. And he's really nurtured with the big changes that we had last year. It was a really big decision for me and who I brought in, because if I brought someone in that didn't nurture the team and really get them on board, it wouldn't have worked.
And also, I've found that agents listen to good agents.
Yeah.
There's a lot of businesses that have like sales managers, but they're actually sitting behind a desk. They're not in the front line, speaking to buyers, understanding vendors with issues based on what's happening in the economy and so forth, and they do feel a bit out of touch. So, I don't coach the agents on the day-to-day. I look after my sales directors, which there's, a loose count, maybe like 12, 14 by the end of this year. But they look after the teams because those sales directors are on the ground understanding all the emotions that the agents are going through. That's essentially what you're
And that's what we're doing
That's
with the teams that we've got. That's exactly what we're doing. So, so I will deal with Paul largely, and then he will deal with the teams, and they will look after their own team because they live and breathe what their team are doing.
I see them as player coach roles.
That's it.
You're a player coach.
Yeah.
You own the team, but at the end of the day, the energy that you're putting in, you're able to understand how much of an impact it's having because you're seeing it in the results or lack of results. So it's easily managed and measured.
Yeah, it is, but it's constantly evolving. You need to change it. I mean, staff, whilst they are your biggest asset, and one thing that we say at Ralph James in particular is that we don't teach people to be nice, we employ nice people. And that is the key thing. We can teach people and give people the tools, and you can. From a very young age, you can give people the tools to do this job. If they are outspoken, if they are intelligent, articulate, and caring a lot of the time, all the time, then we can give them the tools, but we can't teach them to be nice. And that's something that we have been very proud of. And we've got a really, really nice young team. Well, I say young, actually, it's a real mixed bag, but the younger ones in particular, we really nurture and grow them up because I find the homegrown, the academy, if you want to call them, they turn out to be the best because you're teaching them how you see the job and how you want it to be done. And actually, when they get to that point, there's nothing more proud.
I love how your team is perceived online. It's very friendly, it's very professional, production levels are high. I think it's just a beautiful energy that I urge anyone that's listening that's in real estate to jump on Ralph James and just have a look at the energy that you're giving off and the culture that you can easily pick up on through the social media, which I guarantee the market sees. Before you're engaged, they're clicking, they're scrolling, they're watching to say, well, what's my experience going to be like? And you do pick up very quickly that they are friendly, they are nice, they are caring, but they're also very good at what they do. They're putting deals together.
Something you touched on earlier is that they are who they are, and how they are on camera is how they are as people and in their role. So
and
actually,
that's keeping your online and offline in line.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you've got an issue with that, you probably need to assess what you're actually doing.
Yeah, and some people adapt to camera better than others, but the team that we have, they're doing it brilliantly.
Do you know, I don't actually mind people doing content and not being great at it. I actually think that it's endearing, and when people watch that content, they can almost feel the rawness, and it makes them feel a little bit more confident in their own content creation if it's something that they're thinking of doing. It doesn't have to be polished 24/7. I've always thought that the property-related, client-paid marketing needs to be polished. The brand's representation needs to be polished, but the content that they create and your staff create for themselves, putting themselves out there, that can be raw.
Very raw. It needs to be raw because then you're seeing the real person.
Correct.
And actually, I like the nerves because, and also you see the start of someone's journey. So when they start doing it and you see the nerves and the fear, actually, over the period of time where they're doing video and photos and everything else, you see them grow. And that's, from an employer perspective, that's lovely to see. But hopefully the people, the other side of the screen and scrolling will see that as well and actually see these people develop into really good agents and nice people.
I was just going to say, lastly, on the strategic partnership, we rolled the dice because if I failed as Paul Cooney, so if it wasn't working now, I think how my profile at Ralph James, as lovely as I am on the ground, I needed Paul Cooney to shine because it's helped just get that. I know the guys, I'm inspiring the guys. I would have done it maybe on the ground a bit, but I think it's just really helping that they're watching Paul Cooney because they're not near it at all, but they see it through Instagram and they can see what I'm doing in terms of results. But you know, thankfully that's gone all right because.
So with Paul Cooney, the London-based operation, are there agents working under that?
No, it's just me.
Is there a vision to, or are you going to keep it as your?
He asks me every day to do it. Yeah, maybe I'm just I with me. If I wake up in the
Because
morning,
if you put your name on somebody else, and they don't operate to the standards that you are portraying for yourself,
I know
that's obviously the part that's extremely risky.
No, I think I could hire some really good people. I've got lots of people that are queuing up. Really, they are. But I just keep saying this to Thomas. I'm really enjoying my work at the moment, and I just don't want that feeling to go because when I'm enjoying it, I think I'm the best on the planet in my mind. When I don't enjoy it, I don't really fancy anything. So it's just I have to keep that feeling. And Thomas.
But the thing is if you're already coaching people now, why not just coach a few more here?
I could do it, but I could do it. I'm just.
This is top of our agenda.
This is top of the agenda.
So this is trying to get them out of the yoga studio and back into proper.
Well, the only reason why I think it's quite pressing is because if you're already doing it with the team over here, well, you can do it here. The only difference is that on this side, the funds wouldn't all go into your pocket. However, what ends up happening, and this is how I've been able to coach sales directors to understand that you will probably have 12 to 18 months where your income may stay stagnant. It honestly might stay stagnant because as you're growing and coaching and building this nucleus around you, I explain to them, I go back to my 2017-18, I had 4 or 5 agents around me, WHITEFOX was 6 people, and I would get a listing and personality match that vendor to the different 5 very different people that I had around me at that point in time. But then those 5 now, 3 of them have got their own offices where they're doing a very, very similar situation where they have that moment like right now where they were all earning extremely good incomes, but to get it to the point where their teams are growing, there's that stagnation of 12 to 18 months, but then 3 and 4 years later, it is a very different situation.
I'm so aware of it.
It does sit on you.
Oh, well, I think about it all the time, but I do like being on the tools. I do, and that might go as I become a dad. Probably will.
I think you stay on the tools.
Yeah.
But what happens is that you're delegating far more. You're still listing. You're not negotiating as much with the maybe buyers. So what happens is you're getting the listing, you've got your team doing a lot of the legwork, the gas shit that you said at 10 o'clock at night, fuck that off, and you're concentrating on understanding who are the key people within the transaction, and you'll negotiate, and as you're negotiating those deals, you're saying to the team, watch and learn. Like what Yoda did for you back in the day, you're then becoming the new Yoda.
Yes.
It's also letting go, because you do like to have that element of control, which I get. And just going back to the way
How old are
that,
you?
35.
Okay.
Yeah.
so the way that Paul slotted into the business and so succinctly is not just, I mean, it hasn't been the normal route, because usually you'd have someone come in, they would be the main breadwinner, they would lead from the front and bring in the biggest fees, and everyone would be shouting from the rooftops because they're doing a phenomenal job. This has been a slightly different dynamic, but the one good thing that he is doing, well, he's doing many good things, but the main thing with the Paul Cooney is that he is still leading from the front. Yeah, he's not putting bread on Ralph James' table in that regard, but he's bringing the team up and inspiring them in another way. And for me, I think that we looked at this partnership as evolving our business. So we talked about agency and being traditional originally. We're not at a crossroads, but agencies change. There's two models. You either go traditional, which in my opinion over the next 5-10 years you're going to see that sort of filter out, and then you've got the broker model, the Daniel Daggers style. Some people are ready for that, some people aren't. So I think there's sort of a halfway house, but at some point it's all about the tech. It's all about the marketing. It's not about the offices that you've got. It's about how far you can reach with the technology, the marketing at your exposure. And that's what we're constantly learning. Things are changing daily, aren't they? I mean, the way that you interact with your clients, AI coming into our world, which who knows what that's going to bring over the next few years. It's already helping processes, structure, management. Where does it go next? So that is something that we are closely looking at, and how we then structure the next offices.
But what I think won't change, like you think of football teams, we're talking about the Euros now. They're playing in all these different stadiums, and agents, they're selling all these different properties. But there's always a clubhouse. There's always a place for them to go back and train. There's a place for them to put, their stuff in their locker, to go into and just recalibrate. And I think that can't change, because you can't take this type of business into a big co-working space. I don't think that it works that way, because it is private information. There are big transactions. There's things that are going on behind the scenes, particularly in Australia with contracts and so forth, and admin support, and they need stability. They need particular drivers to keep them as happy employees. That unfortunately does require a physical office presence, a hub in a great location. And particularly in Australia, which isn't like London, where you've got so many people on top of each other. I mean, it is so dense. Those small hubs do act as those home bases, but the players can play everywhere. The technology will overlap that to a degree, but I still believe as the business owner, you do have that requirement to provide the home base.
Yeah, and I agree. Again, that's going back to culture and the culture you're creating for your team.
It's
and
a home. It's a second home. And think about that home. I know that I've got team members that are spending more time with their team than they are with their own families, because that's work. So to say that, you can be a nomad and it's all done on your... I mean, I don't own a computer. Everything is done on my phone. But yet I still like to be able to go in, hang my coat, and connect with the team in an environment that is private, that isn't infiltrated by other businesses, that can change the energy within that zone. It is a safe hub. And I think that that's something that needs to be cherished and nurtured to continue to build the team, to build great content. It's the mindset behind the camera that's so important.
Yes.
Yeah, so you're slightly different. So you're nomad on your phone.
Well, I am now, but I wasn't when I had another business, which was a franchise. And I built that over 5 years, and I sold it back to the franchisor.
What was that business called?
It was called Horton and Garton. Just their one operation in Hammersmith, West London, and I franchised it in Chiswick, which was next door, so it worked well. And it just, at that time, because I did the broker model in terms of I was a broker in 2017. No one else was in London. And this is before Daniel, this is before most of them. There was one dude called Nick Crayson, who was the original G, and he's the original guy who started it, and I watched him, and then I went to New York for a bit, and I watched how they were doing it for a couple of weeks, and I came back in 16, I was like, right, I know what I've got to do. Then I did what I did very cleverly is that I was working like a broker, but from the outside, I looked like a really fuzzy little cute traditional agent. Honestly.
He still does.
I still do. I still look like that.
Fuzzy and cute.
Yeah, fuzzy and cute like a little teddy bear. But because from the outside we look really traditional. I turn up in my Nike shorts and hair was down to my shoulders. I was on a fucking chopper and they'd be like, what's going on here? You know, they thought I was going to turn up with like, you know, all the gear on and the little Filofax, and it worked really well because it was such a shock when I turned up.
Yeah.
It wasn't everyone's cup of tea, but it worked really well. But I then, so I was, the broker model we're all talking about, I was one of the originals. Everyone knows it. They wouldn't tell me this, but they were watching what I was doing, and I know I inspired a lot of them to go and do it in London. But they just, I've not had anyone say it to me, but I know they were. And clobber. No one was in their Nikes and shorts. No one was doing that. In London in 2017.
And clobber is outfit.
Sorry, clothes.
I love it.
They were all wearing shirt and tie, Windsor knots.
And you dropped that how long ago?
2017 I dropped it.
Yeah.
No one, and then as soon as I did it, all the West London lot, like, oh, I wear a little jumper and some chinos, and then you'd see them like, oh, hi Paul, like, I was like, and again, I didn't tell them this, but I know this was going
You
on.
helped inspire others to do it.
I did. They were all in their suits, they were.
Yeah, no, I agree. And actually,
I was the first one.
That's a similar story to us. So in 2015, we were a traditional high street office, and all right, yes, we were different and more boutique, but we weren't wearing shirts and ties. We were wearing jumpers and blazers and chinos and loafers, and it was much more relaxed, cool, but relaxed.
But this is what people don't understand, that, you know, fashion has played such a large part of real estate transitioning.
Oh, it has.
Because Sales 101 is mirroring your customer. And particularly in Australia, it was very rare that we would ever see somebody at an open home in a suit and tie. So
Really?
straight away, you were portraying that you were above them, when really you need to be on their level. And dressing smart casual, or dressing in a particular way that made them feel like they could converse with you and feel open to share their information and be relaxed, was key. And that's what we did. We just went down that same path, and it worked so well. And the traditional brands all laughed. They said, oh, look at these guys in their shorts and polos and chinos and loafers.
Gucci loafers.
And at the end of the day, what ended up happening was they all ended up copying anyway.
Can I share the other kryptonite?
What?
WhatsApp. No one was on fucking WhatsApp. No one. Like, no agents were on WhatsApp.
Yeah.
I was one of the, again, originals on that. They're all on it now. They're all doing it. I honestly,
I
Marty,
know.
I'm telling you.
I know.
No, I'm telling you, they've only just started getting onto it. I was one of the.
No, but you're an early adopter of
Yes.
not just WhatsApp or fashion or the chop. You're a quirky cat that knows how to stand out, because you've understood that if you're the purple cow in the crowd, you'll be memorable. Memorable means that you're going to be called for assistance if you can back it up with credibility through what you do.
Yes.
So
It is
ultimately,
me though. It's not.
No,
it's me.
but it's easy for you.
Yeah.
It's easy for you because you enjoy it.
Yeah.
You're that guy that knows how to be memorable, and why not work to your strengths? Like, you throw a suit and tie on you and give you a black Filofax, you're unhappy.
I look pretty good though. I do look really good in the suit.
But you're not yourself.
No.
And that's the key with agency. If you are yourself, you tend to do much better
Yeah,
business.
that's it. That's it.
Yeah,
That's why.
And the team would love hearing that and seeing you
yeah.
embody that.
And they are. I mean,
and look, that also comes down to employment as well, because he is memorable. So he was the only person when this came about that I called. There was only one person.
Well, you called me, but I said I wouldn't let you straight.
Yeah, well, yeah, this is true. And the rest, but thanks for that. But he was the only person that turned up. But we went out, and
good to say I just
it was
signed him.
because you were memorable. And actually, I knew of his track record from afar. And there, again, we haven't even touched on the other links that how we knew each other. Actually, quite a funny story back in. When did you tell me this? I can't remember when you told me, but a house that I developed back in about 2006, 2007 in Hove, and I developed it. It was just it was small fry. It was a 3-bedroom Muse house in Hove, and actually I've moved on and lived in it and sold it, and anyway, years later, who owns it?
You bought it.
Yeah. So
He didn't. He bought it
How
after
bizarre.
the person that bought it from me.
Yeah,
he now still owns it.
Yeah, still own it. It's weird. Oh, it's
Yeah,
so.
that's bizarre.
Yeah. I know.
And we didn't know.
There's been so, but I'm a big believer in this shit.
Oh,
I'm
massively.
like massive
It's
believer.
spirituality. It's knowing that there's things happening And if you're open and receptive to it, more of that shit happens.
Because this happens to me all the time, and I love it. I love it. It just feels so good. But so I know I'm meant to be with him now. Don't know how long, but right now I'm meant to be by his side and doing our thing together. I hope that it's long, and I hope it's for the rest of my career. I don't like changing. You know, if I find someone I love in terms of like business or in love, I don't like changing. I'm very loyal.
Are you in love at the moment?
Yes, I'm married. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Any
My wife
kids?
sounds very similar to your wife. Just lets me do what the fuck I want anytime.
Yeah. Oh, whoa. Don't take that the wrong way. It's no, I've got a very chilled, supportive wife who doesn't give me grief, which has allowed me to fly, and she's on the journey. So
that's
pretty
the
cool.
same as me.
Yeah.
Same as me.
You're going to get him in trouble now.
I know.
You said do what the fuck you want in a minute.
That was off camera. That's so
So what about your journey in terms of where next for you? Obviously, lots of growth recently.
Well, I mean, what's happening is the stepping back of being on the tools was the game changer, which I've spoken about a lot with getting sick, having the heart complications changed the dynamic of the business, and it elevated a couple of people within the ranks to do essentially what you're doing, and seeing them succeed and fly, and seeing company revenue grow, personal income drop, was the right thing for the business because it eliminated key person risk, which actually developed the business from a Marty Fox show into the WHITEFOX show. And that, I think, has been the biggest shift in WHITEFOX. But that's now going back 2.5 years. We had 2 offices at the time. We're about to open our 12th office across Australia and New Zealand.
Well done.
Expanding into New Zealand was a big thing because New Zealand is a test case and a test market for many products.
So what made you do that?
So I went to university in New Zealand.
Right.
That's where I met Rory Stumbles, who's our current CFO. And essentially going into New Zealand was a way to test the brand, the tone of voice, the aesthetic, without Marty Fox involved. And we thought if we did it in New Zealand, where it's a very conservative market, if it was to work, then we knew that we could roll the dice in Australia and beyond. So to roll the dice in New Zealand and see it succeed in such a difficult climate, with a change of government, with a female leader, we appointed Kate Fairmaid as our managing director, who was in her late 20s. There was a lot of moulds that we were breaking concurrently, and it worked. And off the back of New Zealand succeeding, that's then when a ripping bloke named Ryan Smith out of Perth reached out and said, seeing that you've done New Zealand, would love to do Perth. And we hadn't landed on the business model yet. You know, we're not franchised, we're still majority company owned, which means that we can control a lot of the content and creative that goes out into the market. And I think that's what a lot of agencies want. They want that creative drive and vision. And that creative drive and vision is certainly coming from HQ. And it allows the agents to do what they're the best at, which is cutting the deals and knowing that behind the scenes they've got that contract support, that admin support, that finance support, the ability for us to turn things around so quickly for them to penetrate markets. And Perth for us has then unlocked a whole new plethora of opportunity where people that were operating to those agents' standards have now started to reach out. Because WHITEFOX was a training ground for new agents because we weren't attracting the high performers from these other companies because we were perceived as risky. We've now turned a ship as not risky. We are the safe option, and a big pillar that has played a role in that. Trust equity was also TV. Being appointed as the new judge on the block, being trusted by the Australian public and by Channel 9 to be in that type of authority on a renovation show, giving advice to contestants that have put their lives on hold, has brought on a whole new level of trust equity within the industry.
I need to watch it.
PR 101, isn't it?
It's honestly 101. It's the most viewed show outside of Married at First Sight. It's the most relevant rated show because it's a show that a family will watch from 5, 6, 7-year-olds all the way up until the grandparents. Whereas MAFS is a bit it's pretty hectic, married at first sight.
Yeah.
So for us,
So
it's,
are you like the Simon Cowell on it? Are you the tough one?
I'm the direct one.
You're direct one.
But it's very firm but fair.
Yes.
Early on, they were saying that yes, I was the Simon Cowell, but they've seen that my soft side's there when it is good. I'm not saying it's bad for the sake of saying it's bad and to get ratings up. I'm sharing my knowledge from being in real estate, and ultimately they need to create a product that goes to market to get the most amount of money. So in terms of the vision, it's continuing to connect with great people that love property, that love people first and foremost, but really value marketing.
But that has elevated you in terms of your position as well. So surely now not higher because obviously you've got a great team anyway, but you're probably getting a lot more people come to you because of the recognition that you've got from the TV, and actually that helps you with growing into new areas.
It's like when you would have started. When I would go into a listing in 2017 and 2018, it would be 1 hour discussing and pitching who Marty Fox was and who White Fox was. And then it would be an hour to actually try and get the deal, try and get the listing. It was a 2-hour appointment. Our agents aren't walking to properties explaining who White Fox is. That for me is mind blowing. Like I'm so proud of that. I still pinch myself going, they actually, like the agents come in and they say, oh, I've got a listing in such and such. And I say, Ari, did you have to pitch? I did this last week. I said, did you have to pitch White Fox? He goes, what are you talking about? No, they knew everything.
Yeah,
and
that's
I'll
nice.
walk away and go into my office and go, that's crazy. So it's those moments of expansion and brand equity that really,
So the areas
get
that you
excited.
cover then, because this is quite a similar story to us on a obviously clearly geographical, much smaller area, but I find with the branding and the brand equity that we have, it's ours to lose when we go in. So people have bought into, when they call us in, they bought into the Instagram, the stories, the marketing, the brand as a whole. We are different. So we're not the norm in terms of the high street agents. So therefore, people have bought into that journey. So really, we've got one foot in the door.
Oh, always.
And it's actually ours to lose. And that could be price, it could be personality clash. There's a whole reason that people wouldn't use Ralph. Well, hopefully there's not, but there is the possibility of that. But we've always got the head start. And actually going into why we do the marketing and how we do it, it doesn't need to be done anymore. So we've done that in the last 10 years and people have caught on to it.
It's a great feeling getting to that point.
Yeah, it's lovely.
When you're up against multinationals and, like you said, the high street brands.
Can I ask you about the TRE lot? Are they?
Oh, TRG.
Yeah, TRG. Are they cool?
Yeah,
You're
great.
cool with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we did their branding.
Oh, right.
So about 2 years into White Fox, everyone was commenting about our branding, and that's when I said to Aidan Hathaway, who was helping me with all of our branding and tone of voice, I said, mate, we should start our own marketing agency because I kept getting hit up by clients that have got their own businesses, other agents. We should just start, delivering a great brand to these other companies. Gavin Rubenstein, one of them, because he was Ray White and he was prepared to leave, Ray White to do his own company, but they retained him and gave him a sub-brand. And we did the whole branding, we did the logo design, the tone of voice.
So is that what he is now, a sub-brand?
He's TRG.
Actually, a lot of people don't know that.
Yeah, exactly.
No one knows that.
No one knows that. So, as opposed to losing this person and letting them become a competitor, they figured, well, why not just give him the ability to rebrand, but be powered by the bigger engine of Ray White. And he's been able to cut that type of deal because of who he is.
Yeah.
He's a great man.
Cool.
He's a very cool dude. He's got a great team. He's trained up some amazing agents. But he also has an amazing relationship behind the scenes with the White family. The White family are beautiful people. They're 3-4 generations deep within the Australian, New Zealand, South Pacific. I mean, they're a global company. So that it just worked for them. See how this situation just sort of worked, and from the outside looking in, you go, well, hold on, how does that actually happen? The same as TRG. It just worked for them.
Well, that's the question I get asked the most now when I'm sitting with other agents. Is how are you doing it? How's it working? It's very hard to give them that, even in like a half an hour conversation. It's very hard to cover. I don't know how it's working. It's just
you need to get that down to about 30 seconds.
Yeah.
So if you're saying that it's taking half an hour, it's 29 and a half minutes too long,
I know.
and you've got to fix that.
I know.
Yeah.
Well,
and that's what we did as a
so
marketing
interested
agency for so long. Now, I don't have that agency anymore. I've sold it because I had to focus on White Fox. But it's all about making things very easy to digest. If a consumer can understand something succinctly, or a new staff member, you've got the magic. You've got to resolve that as quickly as possible.
So who are the brains behind the HQ in terms of constantly thinking about the changes and the way the business needs it? Is that solely you as the driver, or have you got a team of people that are saying, this is what we need to do next?
I bring a lot of ideas to the table. I think the creativity that I've always had within me is now really starting to become unleashed because I'm not on the tools. I'm not dealing with buyers and vendors and all those sorts of things. My brother, who is our creative director of the brand now, is quite lucky because I've got somebody that I've been able to trust my whole life sitting right there.
Yeah.
So telepathically, he understands when I'm trying to explain something. Visually, I'm so, in here and I can see things. He somehow knows how to grab them out, and he also knows how to see things that he knows that I'll resonate very well with. So I think having that connection is very, very lucky. Having somebody like Shura Taft in the business that can communicate with agents, particularly in the onboarding and the recruitment, how he MCs our internal events, how he's a bit of a glue within that HQ dynamic.
You can see that.
He's just an absolute jet of a human being. My CFO, being a friend since I was 15, really understanding the drivers behind the scenes when it comes to the financials, when we are expanding, how to do it effectively without investment. I'm still the sole shareholder of the company. Being able to make decisions efficiently by knowing where we are financially is the key. But again, having someone that you can trust and that is also my business partner in New Zealand has been really important. So there's all these connections within that HQ dynamic, and obviously there's more people, but we need to wrap up fairly soon because you've got your son's prom.
What time is it?
We've got a lot in for an hour.
Yeah, no, we've got a couple of minutes left.
Yeah,
So that HQ dynamic is really important, but the most special part about it is the people that have launched JVs with us and are running offices in different regions, Adelaide, Perth, New Zealand, Brisbane and Gold Coast coming up, is that they can unlock what they're doing because they're not having to try and recreate that HQ that's taken me. If I look at it, those relationships go back to 15 years of age. So they're getting 20 years plus of networking and connections and trust and belief in each other to produce this magic. This magic that's coming out of this business is reading the play. We're very street smart. We've got people that are behind the scenes that are very book smart. And that combination of street smarts and book smarts is what's creating this engine room that when you drop that on good people that are great at what they do and they know how to onboard amazing agents within their regions, that's how we're seeing this growth.
But that back office team gives them a huge platform to just go and do what they're best at and go and win the business.
Absolutely. But and because we're invested in it, it's not clipping the ticket. Because they know that my balls are on the line and I've paid and gone in with them as majority stakeholder in the renovations, in all the financial decisions that are made where it's, literally putting your balls on the guillotine. They love the fact that you're in there in the trenches. It's about seeing that equity, not only in money, but in trust, that they're going to represent, because I've been so vocal about the brand and its aesthetic, that they are in control of those markets and that all the trust is then put on them. And they love it.
I had two questions for you, because you hear sometimes with sort of sports stars, if they've got friends from like the age of 15, they're usually being told what they want to hear. Sounds like that's not happening for you. And the other question was that I think, that's the danger with that length of relationship. Can you just make sure you're getting the right advice for them? But maybe you can in your circles.
Probably more so, because I've always been such a good listener. My fear is letting someone down. I can't stand like a family dynamic dispute or not talking to a friend I want to try and resolve it, but sometimes it can't be resolved and you just got to move on. But when it comes to business, if you don't listen, you're setting yourself up for failure. Because nothing that we're doing is actually revolutionary. Like innovation doesn't necessarily mean you've got to invent something. Innovation is just making sure that you're applying something that you've seen that works and you're doing it. Or you've spoken to somebody that's got many more years experience than you, that have seen curveballs, that have seen trauma, and knowing how to actually read the play and realize that the world is going to continue, and the same mistakes that were made 15, 20 years ago are going to happen right now, particularly as your business grows and you need these different layers of management to understand how the whole thing works.
But it's also doing it consistently. So whilst you're doing the innovative things and coming up with the new ideas, you've got to do it consistently. Because otherwise people won't know what your identity is. You'll be flitting from one thing to the next.
But isn't it crazy? Like innovation is actually just going back to the old school. Just be consistent.
The basics.
Because no one is old school. And when I say no one, it's a bit of a throwaway line. A lot of people don't have those old school values. And if you've got those old school values that, you know, work hard, do what you say, follow through, stick to the plan, you know, don't shift off the tone of voice of the aesthetics, be smart, be true to what it is that you're putting out into the marketplace consistently. And it's not about winning. It's not that you're going to win, but you're going to have a really good, healthy life. You're going to make money, you're going to be true to yourself, and you're going to get everything that you actually want, as long as you stick to it.
One more question for you. Do you think you would have been
the other ones?
You did.
Great.
Do you think you would have been as successful without your like your team? I guess
no chance.
No. And how would you have found those type of people? You wouldn't have found them. You would have been on your own thoughts.
I've always found people. I've always found people that have been drawn and attracted to do things with me. And over the years, some people have been bad. Some people have been great. Some people have been great for that moment. People change, people evolve, and that is good. That is healthy. When people say, "Oh, you've changed," like in a bad way, I almost look at them and go, "That's a really fucking stupid thing to say," because I'm meant to change. My responsibilities are growing. My family's growing. My commitments are growing. If I'm not evolving and changing and cutting other things out of my life, well, then where's the growth? A change is amazing.
I feel different every day. I feel. Yeah, I do. Honestly, I feel like every day.
Yeah. So, you know, attracting people and what I want to make sure is that if I'm attracting people, they've got to be growing as well. Because what will happen is if they don't grow and you are, there will be a fracture, which is okay. It just happens. That's life.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, you've discussed it with your partner and so forth. Things just happen, and that's okay as well. I think at the end of the day, if you actually think about it, we've all got the exact same ending.
Yes.
We're all fucking out of here within the next 30, 40, 50, 60 years, whenever it might be.
Yeah.
So have fun along the way. Do what you've said. Don't take the cheeky secret commissions. Be clean. Do great business. And get nervous regularly, because if you're pushing the boundaries and you're growing and you're inspiring and you're training and you're doing all the things that, you know, brings excitement to your day, then it's unreal.
I had one more.
Yeah, go.
Just because it seems that your structure is quite family heavy. So mum, she was just on the potty. Not your mum's not helping out.
She gate crashed a potty.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
She is involved in the company, doesn't she?
Well, she has a lot of involvement. Doesn't have a contract or a job description, but she's my boss. She's my leader with my wife. They're the people that keep me grounded. So if you've got a CEO that's running a company, well, who are his trainers? Who are his people that keep him on? Who are those people? It's just lucky that I share them. I genuinely share my people because I care for those around me. Now, if I wanted to block Charlotte and Linda off from everyone else and just keep them to myself, great. But I've allowed them to have access into my life, of which could be a detriment in the future because it's their energy levels. My mum helps so much to other business owners within the business that aspire to want to be and do the things that I did in agency. So who do they go to?
They go to your mum.
They give her a call and they
So
they say,
I love that.
How's this? How's that? What should I do? And because she's watched it, and I'll do this with my kids. If my kids become successful at some point in no matter what field that they do, I'm obviously going to be vigilant because I'm on their journey. No one is on the Marty Fox journey more than my brother, my mum, my best mate, and my wife. So the fact that my team have intel and a direct line into these people to help solve their issues, of course it's going to benefit White Fox.
Oh, definitely.
And it benefits me.
That's why I'm so
They
interested.
don't call me.
Yeah.
It also gives them a higher sense of value because it's so transparent.
Very
so
transparent.
you're opening up your world.
Yes.
It's not just you and then them.
Yes.
It's very much connected as a family.
Does that work in most families? Maybe, maybe not. But I can assure you, I don't know many people that have shared a bedroom with their mum and their brother for many, many years. We're a tight-knit family because we were forced to be. We didn't have money. We didn't have the ability to grow up and experience certain things and have, even just basic things like separation. We were fucking on top of each other. So the benefit of that, at the time, it was a real detriment. I remember getting teased at school when friends would come over and they'd be like, you sleep in the same bedroom as your mum, and then I'd get teased at school. Those child traumas, they end up becoming your biggest celebrations.
But are the school reunions quite nice now when you...
Put it this way, I've never gone to a school
Have you
reunion.
not?
I've been to 7 schools.
Really?
And I'm friends with people from each one of those 7. I've got 1 or 2 in each of those 7 schools. And I haven't been to one of those reunions.
No, I haven't.
I celebrate the memories of those schools every day when I'm in contact with those people. I don't need to get together in a big group and have a hoo-ha.
No.
But,
It's nice. It's very clearly a close-knit family in terms of your friends, your culture, the people you've got invested in your journey.
but no one has a free kick. No one is involved in White Fox because of nepotism.
Yeah,
If
fine.
you look at everyone, they're experts in what they do. No one can renovate a shop like how Charlotte can renovate a shop. She's got the vision. We went to Dover last night for dinner and she cracked up the moment we walked in because the 3-feature chandeliers in Dover, in Mayfair, right, are the exact chandeliers that she's just put in Adelaide and put in Carlton.
Oh, really?
And I took photos to the directors and said, you guys have no idea how good Charlotte is at what she does.
Should have been Waterford Crystal. That's who do the best chandeliers. You know that? Waterford Crystal is the Irish crystal. Yeah.
I've to
Maybe
look into
mention that to Charlotte.
I will, absolutely.
Waterford
So,
Crystal.
if you've got nepotism, you're setting yourself up for failure because at some point you're going to come unstuck and you're going to then turn people within the office against you. So you just got to be really cutthroat. Like when my dad crossed the line at one point in time in the business, he lost his job and he's never gotten it back.
Wow.
Even though he's in the business now is the cleaner.
Is he?
Yeah, absolutely. Mate, these offices are spotless.
Yeah.
But the job that he had, unfortunately, he lost because he lost his driver's license and he needed a frigging license to do that job. So you've just got to treat everyone the same, but make sure that they are experts in their field.
And adding value as well.
Adding value. If they add value to the business, I've always said, if you look after the business looks after you.
I just don't think there's many businesses in real estate that have that.
No.
Because normally you're the black sheep of the family. I think when you do real estate, you've probably come from a family that's done...
A lot of people in my family are all black sheeps.
Yeah.
Yeah, even on both sides. I mean, put it this way, we're in London right now and mum and dad are here. Now, they've been married 3 times each.
Yeah.
So their current husbands and wives are back in Australia.
And they're together? As in they're hanging out?
They're hanging out right now.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah, so even that in itself, like
that's so good.
So my
That's
genetic,
very
I
bizarre.
love that.
it is bizarre.
That's so good.
And I got messages last night when we were at dinner, and my mum's like, "Fuck, your dad's funny," because his little sister that lives in London was over having champagnes with them, and she's just like, "This is like," she goes, "My stomach and my jaw is in fucking agony because your dad and auntie are so fucking
And first
funny."
loves then, it's as in first marriage, probably both of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And my dad always says, "Well, I'm the number one husband."
Yeah.
Because technically he's correct.
That's that's.
This is so bizarre.
It's hilarious, but
They might have got married in Marleybone when he's doing a bit.
It's funny. So many people are like, "Marty, this is Parent Trap."
Yeah,
You're trying to get your phone. And I'm like, no, it ain't Parent Trap. It's just a very fucking
it probably is.
funny dynamic family.
That's going to be the end of the film, isn't it? When you put all this together, your mum and dad kissing at the end at Tower Bridge.
Holding hands.
Tower Bridge.
The 7-year-old Marty Fox's dream
Yeah,
comes
yeah,
back.
yeah.
And the 7-year-old Marty Fox wasn't Marty Fox. It was actually Marty Pasula. I had my dad's last name and changed it to my mum's.
Italian then?
No, Serbian.
Okay.
Serbian Romanian.
Oh, okay.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
how random is this? Another connection between us. That one of the blokes in here, sitting just over there, happens to be Neil Whitaker's
Come on.
godson.
Come on.
Come say
sit
hello
down
to your
now.
uncle.
Come sit down.
Like, what are the chances?
You only see the
that-
guys come from behind
that,
the TV
that
sets.
you
They're like,
go, well, you're on this TV show with one of our marketing teams.
Well, when we spoke
Godfathers.
last time, he was a metre away from me when we mentioned you going on the block, and he was sat opposite me.
you don't know if he's
I'm sure I know Neil Whitaker. And
Neil, is this not bizarre that I'm sitting with your godson? Huh? I said, if we just shave his head and put on some specs, you've got your twin.
That's me. Maybe he is my dad after all.
I think he is.
That's so good. Well, guys, that's another episode of With the Fox. It's been amazing being in London, some great catch-ups. I love these boys so much. I like you. I'll love you in another 24 hours. And you can listen to on all streaming services. You know what to do. But so great to meet you in person after all these
And you.
years.
Thank you, Marty.
And great
been
to
a
see
pleasure.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.